Welcome back, Focus Learners. Okay, so today we are unpacking an absolutely incredible true story. We're looking at a high-stakes cat-and-mouse investigation that actually resulted in the biggest dark web takedown in history. So let's just dive right into the astonishing rise and the spectacular fall of a digital empire and break down exactly how investigators managed to catch a literal phantom. Grab your notepads because the sheer scale and the cinematic twists in this explainer are frankly mind-blowing. To really wrap our heads around the magnitude of this operation, we kind of have to ground ourselves in the landscape of the internet itself. Think about everything you use every single day, right? Social media, news sites, streaming platforms. Well, that is the surface web, and it makes up a mere 4% of the internet. 4%. The other 96%, that's the deep and dark web. And the dark web, specifically, is this hidden network where users can operate in total anonymity. Around 2010, public interest in this hidden world, and obviously the use of cryptocurrency within it, absolutely exploded. And hiding deep within that 96% was a mastermind known to the world only as AlphaZero2. Now, this guy amassed a staggering personal fortune of $23 million. He basically built an illegal empire that made him incredibly wealthy, all while remaining completely invisible to international law enforcement. But honestly, the most fascinating part of this entire story and the puzzle we are going to solve today is how this highly sophisticated digital mastermind, someone who successfully hid behind, endless layers of encryption and bounced servers, how did he get undone by a rookie digital footprint mistake? Seriously, how does a simple, automated thank you email completely bring down a multi-million-dollar criminal syndicate? Section 1. After Silk Road, the Hydra Effect. So to understand AlphaZero2's rise, we've got to look at the climate of the dark web right before he showed up. Back in February 2011, this massive dark web marketplace called Silk Road launched. It drew in 100,000 regular users, buying and selling illegal goods. After 2.5 years of intense tracking, authorities finally shut it down and handed the owner a life sentence. Now, law enforcement thought this harsh punishment would just terrify other site owners into shutting down. But man, they were wrong. It didn't create fear, it created a massive business opportunity. Get this, just 35 days after Silk Road was shut down, Silk Road 2.0 was up and running. And shortly after that, other sites like Evolution and Agora rose up to capture this massive, suddenly displaced customer base. It was basically a frustrating, endless game of whack-a-mole for authorities. But here's the thing, these new marketplaces were highly unstable. And this brings us to a really crucial concept, the exit scam. Sites like Evolution eventually got spooked by the heat from law enforcement. But instead of just logging off quietly, the owners abruptly shut down their own websites and literally vanished with all the cryptocurrency their users had deposited. They robbed their own criminal customers. This obviously created absolute chaos, but it also created a desperate market demand for a reliable, professional platform where buyers and sellers wouldn't get scammed by the owners themselves. Section 2. AlphaBay's Empire. So, that massive vacuum left by those exit scams, that paved the exact way for AlphaBay. And let me tell you, this marketplace changed the dark web game entirely. It started out just selling stolen credit card information, but rapidly expanded to 300,000 illicit products. I'm talking everything from drugs to malware to weapons. With 40,000 active sellers, AlphaBay took a 2 to 4% commission on every single transaction, which is exactly how Alpha2 made his millions. But here's the wildest part to me. They operated with the structure of a legitimate tech company. AlphaCho hired a co-admin named Snake, a whole team of moderators, and even a public relations manager. Yes, a PR manager for an illegal weapons and drug market. It's crazy. Eventually, Alpha2 became so wealthy that he practically retired from the day-to-day operations, just handing the reins over to Snake. Now, despite being this massive illegal hub, AlphaBay actually had highly specific terms of service. While they allowed drugs and weapons, they strictly banned two things: hitmen for hire and the sale of any Russian bank account details. This specific ban on Russian data made investigators scratch their heads. Was Alpha02 trying to avoid poking Russian authorities? Was he Russian himself? Or was this just a brilliant, deliberate false trail to distract international investigators? Section 3. One small mistake. Alpha02 was undeniably smart, and he covered his tracks brilliantly. By December 2016, an American DEA agent named Robert Miller was hitting absolutely nothing but dead ends. He was only catching low-level packers. But then, a breakthrough happened, and it all came down to a single email address. See, in the very early days of AlphaBay, when the site was just getting off the ground, new users who registered received an automated welcome email. Someone, possibly a rival dark website owner trying to take out the competition, had actually saved one of these original emails and anonymously forwarded it to Agent Miller. When investigators dug into the metadata, they found the sender's address was this ridiculously sloppy early 2000s personal email, pimp_alex_91@hotmail.com. You literally can't make this stuff up. And that single Hotmail address, that was the fatal flaw that cracked the Phantom's armor. Investigators tracked the email and finally uncovered the real identity of Alpha 02. It was a man named Alexander Kazis. Now, back in 2009, Alexander had used the alias Troy Reeves on a French social media site called Sky.com. Investigators discovered he was living in Thailand, where he owned 3 properties, one for his wife and 2 so-called bachelor pads on the outskirts of town where he threw these huge parties. And far from being some untouchable digital ghost, Alexander was actively registered on pickup artist websites, frequently asking other men on forums for relationship advice about his marriage. So knowing his identity and his location, investigators flew straight to Bangkok in June 2017 to gather more evidence. And then, this incredibly suspenseful coincidence occurred. Investigators were just sitting in a hotel lobby, strategizing. Out of nowhere, a very loud Porsche pulls up to the hotel gate. A man steps out, walks right into the lobby, and sits down at a chair just meters away from the agents for a business meeting. It was Alexander Kazis. He had absolutely no idea that the guys sitting across the lobby were the exact people hunting him down. It was literally the first time they ever laid eyes on him. Section 4. Operation Bayonet. Now, authorities didn't arrest Alex in that hotel lobby because they needed a much larger strategy to ensure the dark web didn't just spawn another Hydra head. At the exact same time the FBI was tracking AlphaBay, Dutch authorities were trying to shut down a major European rival site called Hansa Market. So they decided to team up. Step 1, Dutch authorities secretly seized control of Hansa Market servers without telling anyone. Step 2, the FBI takes down AlphaBay. Step 3, just as they predicted, panicked AlphaBay customers desperately flocked to the next biggest site, which is Hansa Market. But step 4 is the trap. Because authorities secretly owned Hansa, they were able to collect the login details, the addresses, and the lists of every single buyer and seller who migrated over. It was genius. They literally used the dark web's own exit scam paranoia against it. Section 5. End of the mastermind. All right, so with the digital trap perfectly set on Hansa Market, it was finally time to physically catch Alexandra Kazis at his home in Thailand. Law enforcement knew they couldn't just knock on the door. If Alexandra had even 10 seconds of warning, he could press a single button, encrypt his hard drives, and destroy all the evidence connecting him to AlphaBay. So they staged a major distraction. A vehicle violently crashed right into the front gate of his property. It was so loud, Alexandra heard it from deep inside his home. With his cell phone in hand, he rushed outside to see what on earth had just happened. The moment he stepped outside, officers rushed him. But as they grabbed him and seized his phone, they noticed something absolutely crucial. Alexander wasn't trying to run away from the property. He was desperately trying to pull away from the officers and run back inside his house. Why? Well, when officers entered the house, they found out why. They found his computer completely unencrypted, fully unlocked, and logged directly into the administrative servers of AlphaBay. If the officers had been just seconds late, if he had reached that computer, he would have locked them out forever. Instead, they captured every single login ID, password, and server access point. They literally had the keys to the entire empire. The investigation went on to reveal the full scale of his wealth, $23 million. AlphaBay was completely shut down, and Hansa Market was shut down immediately after the authorities harvested all the user data they needed. However, the story ends on a really dark note. Just 1 month after the investigators first saw him in that hotel lobby and shortly after his arrest in Thailand, Alexander Kazis tragically died while in custody, officially closing the book on the founder of AlphaBay forever. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. Operation Bayonet was a stroke of absolute investigative genius, right? Striking 2 targets with 1 arrow. But did taking down AlphaBay permanently stop the dark web? Or did this massive sting operation just force the next generation of cybercriminals to get even smarter, proving once again the relentless whack-a-mole nature of cybercrime? It certainly shows that a digital footprint, no matter how old or how small, is never perfectly hidden. Thank you for joining me on this Explainer Focused Learners. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.